Okay, so get ready. Today I have Dani Williamson on the podcast. She is full of really good information. She's got a 6-step program that entails diet, sleep, move, poop well, poop well, decrease stress, and community. We go through those 6 steps in detail. She has a new book coming out that you can pre-order on Amazon. It's called, I'm looking for it, Wild and Well, Dani's 6 Commonsense steps to radical healing. So those are the 6 steps. She's just great. She was very energetic. It was such a nice conversation. And we're talking about all these things like, gut biome, obviously like what you're putting in your body, all these things I just mentioned, but we just went into detailing each one of them. So I hope you enjoy the podcast again. And until next time.
About, I don't know if I missed something or what, but I have no clue what we're even talking about today. So it could be entertaining or horrifying for sure.
Oh, no. Let me get my glasses.
Okay.
Because first off, your assistant sent me so many cool points to talk about. And then I just went and just looked at everything that you're out there talking about. And it's so cool because my wife and I have this same type of perspective. She's a pharmacist.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah. Okay. And so her thing is she's very holistic thinking in the way that she goes about treating her patients.
Yes.
And it's not really, when you think of a pharmacist, you think of someone that's just a pill popper, pill pusher.
You bet.
Right. And that's not her at all. I call her and my sister-in-law. My sister-in-law also works in the pharmacy. They're like my white witches. It's kind of what because they just, back in the day, women like you and women like my wife and my sister-in-law, they would have been, thrown to the stakes on the, thrown to the fire because you guys were healing holistically and doing all these things.
You bet. And I suspect, I don't know, is your wife German? I mean, are you from Germany? Is she? Yeah. So did she get, because I'm a traditional allopathically trained family nurse practitioner. I had to step out of the boat 11 years ago and start practicing what I consider real medicine, gut healing from the inside out, root cause medicine. I wasn't taught any of this in school. I was not taught that your body's designed to heal itself. And if you weren't born with it, you can reverse it. You turn it on. I'm assuming she had a traditional, is she a compounding pharmacist? Does she compound things?
Exactly. So she does. We have it's always funny because when I see it in English, I just have the German terms. What do you call Rezeptura? What would you call that in English? Well, basically, like they basically have we have 2 laboratories. We have one because we have like a clean room where we.
Yes, that's compounding.
Yeah. And then there they create, it's kind of a sucky thing, obviously, for people that have cancer. We create the therapy for the cancer patients here in the hospital here locally in Pasewalk. That's where we live. And I'm American. I met her in high school. So we got together like later on in life. And I ended up moving out to Germany about 13 years ago. And so now she and I have 3 kids, and she took over her father's pharmacy because in Germany, the pharmacies are they're sole proprietorships. They're like owned by the pharmacists themselves. So it's a little bit different of a structure than in the States. But in the end, it's cool because she can actually, she can design the company as much as the law allows, right? She can say to her customers, hey, you know what? You have a prescription, but let's work with some probiotics.
You bet. I've got to come visit. I've never been to Germany, so I want to come see. I'm going to make it a business trip, and exactly. I'm going to come to Germany and visit this pharmacy as soon as we can get to Germany. I don't know if I can, if we're allowed in right now, but I would love to come. I've never been, so good for you all. Well, that explains you talking about vitamin C and bananas. I've been listening to your podcasts, so I've been thinking, I wonder what in the world he does, because yes, I knew you had that slant, that natural slant, and it's good for you and good for you raising these children this way. That's what I tell my patients every day is you've got the opportunity right now to change the entire trajectory of the next generation of kids. You know, by healing yourself, you're able to help heal these children and feed them food that is life-giving and doesn't take their life away. What's at the end of your fork is way more powerful than what's at the bottom of your pill bottle, hands down.
I love the way that you say this too. Like I was watching that video on YouTube, your basically your trailer on YouTube, and it's just fantastically produced. It's such a high quality. And then I kind of wrote some things down. You said you have to eat real food. It's just like real basic. Just eat real food. Eat food that God made. You know, that's like a way of saying. I've never heard it like put that way. Like, you know, God didn't make gluten-free cookies. So.
No, he didn't. Right. And those gluten-free cookies are good for a gluten-free person. But if you look at the back of that package and it's got a list a mile long of ingredients, that's not one ingredient God made food. That's packaged, processed, bagged, canned, fake food. And if it was made in a plant by a man, guaranteed it's going to create inflammation. And inflammation is the root of 100% of all chronic disease. Hands down, all chronic lifestyle diseases, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, heart disease, cancer. I mean, the list goes, lupus, autoimmune disease, irritable bowel. Inflammation is the root of every single bit of that. And I'm living proof. If you turn it on, you can turn it off in your body, or at least dial it back to where it's manageable and you're living the quality of life that you were designed to live. But it starts right here at the end of your fork.
Yeah. And I know I'm guilty. I still throw that pizza every now and then, that frozen pizza. I throw it in the oven every now and then. I think to myself, like, how long am I still going to do that? You know?
No one is perfect. No one is perfect, but you have to build up enough resiliency in your body. So you need to be really super clean for an amount of time to decrease the inflammation, heal the leaky gut, close those tight junctions in your gut, right? Decrease the inflammatory response so that when you do decide you want the gluten-free pizza or you want the cookies or you want the gluten-free cupcake, that your body doesn't respond to that with inflammation, joint pain, headaches. I mean, food creates hundreds of inflammatory responses in your body. If you have a headache right now, if you have joint pain right now, if your stomach is hurting right now, it could be something you ate, you know, a minute ago, or it could be something you ate 3 days ago. Food sensitivities happen 3 hours to 3 days later. And many people don't realize that. And they don't, if I've got a migraine right now, it could have been something I ate when I got up this morning, but it also could have been Wednesday. So don't worry about it. But the key is to build resiliency. And that's in life in general. We need to be resilient people, but we're not. We live in a chronic state of inflammation. 100, even babies are born. Your wife knows this. Babies are born with a leaky gut now. Many of them are. We've got hundreds of chemicals in the umbilical cord that have been identified through the CDC. And, they're born already compromised. And that really hurts my heart.
Yeah, right. Because they don't have a chance to.
They don't have a chance. They don't stand a chance. This is the first generation of children. The first generation of children that are going to die before their parents. That's what the research shows. We have never buried our children before us. And shame on us. That is our fault. That is nobody's fault but us. It's not the government's fault. Well, if you think the government or the food industry has your health in mind, you are sadly mistaken, because the food industry is all about addiction. And I know I sound like a conspiracy theorist, but no. You know, we are responsible for what we put into our children. And those kids were not born picky eaters. We created picky eaters by feeding them fat, salt, sugar, all the processed foods that their little tongues and their bodies crave. There's a reason, well, you're in Germany, but you're an American. So I always tell patients, there's a reason Cracker Barrel biscuits taste the same in Nashville, Tennessee, where I am, as they do San Diego, California. That biscuit was made in a chemistry lab. You're a chemistry experiment. Chick-fil-A, the same thing, tastes the same all over the country or the world. McDonald's. It's not one ingredient God-made food. So sorry, I got off on a tangent.
I love it. No, I love it. This is great. This is exactly like you make my job just easier, right? I just can sit here
I have a lot of words. That's why I wrote the book. I have a whole lot of words. I'm like, I got to get all this out. But yeah, I was so sick for so many years. And when I was able to turn my health around, and if we get a chance to tell that, I said, I'll never go back. And I will preach it from the mountaintops.
Yeah. So let's go into that story. So, because it's a personal journey, and I love that. I love that that you can, because it's so authentic, right? Because you're speaking from your own experience, from taking yourself out of the gutter in so many different ways, and then being able to share it with people is so powerful. I think it's something that, I say it always on this podcast too. If one person hears this and it helps one person, then good for us, because that's something that, and it means that you have to be, in my opinion, you have to be honest and open about things that maybe not everyone most people don't want to share everything. But I'm that type of person. I'm a kind of, and you are too. So let's take advantage of that. And please just give us your story. As much as you want to go back, you can start wherever you want,
Well, the very beginning, basically, I grew up in a complete and total shithole of chaos in my house. And in fact, I saw a new patient one day last month, and she had heard my story. And I said, why are you here? She said, because you grew up in a shithole of chaos. That's what she said. She said, I listened to your story. So I did. I grew up in a shithole of total chaos. My grandfather had died by suicide. My mother attempted suicide multiple times. I had chronic irritable bowel syndrome. I didn't know it was diarrhea for years from all the stress. And I had my very first colonoscopy at age 20. And 15 years after that, I was 35 years old. I was in a hard marriage. I had 2 little children, and I was suicidal as well. And I remember the morning that I was going to die by suicide. And I knew exactly what I was going to do. I was going to drive off the foot of Broadway in Paducah, Kentucky, right into the Ohio River. Not a thing anyone could do to save me. And I was in bed, and all of a sudden my kids, I just hear, Mama, Mama. My kids, Jackson was like 5 or 6. I don't know. Ella was 3 or 4. They came in the room, jumped on the bed. We're hungry. What's for breakfast? What's for breakfast? And I mean, literally the second I saw their eyes, I thought, I'm not leaving them with my husband, ex-husband now. And I got up. I fed my kids, and I got divorced. A year later, I'm a single mom. I'm on food stamps. I'm on a medical card. I was like, what the hell? And I closed my maternity store. I owned a maternity store for 11 years, and I applied to nursing school. And at 40, I was 40 years old. So one morning, literally on my front porch, I'm standing there, and I open up 2 letters. The first one said, congratulations, you've been accepted to Vanderbilt University School of Nursing. Vanderbilt. Yeah. I am a little girl from Gilbertsville, Kentucky. I'd never been to a private school in my life. I'm a public school girl. My kids went to public school. And here I'm going to Vanderbilt. The second letter said, you qualify for $56 more in food stamps this month for yourself and Ella and Jackson. And it was like, whoa, I'm going to Vandy on food stamps at 40. And so I left, packed up the kids and left, and didn't know a soul but one person, 2 people in Nashville. 3 years later, $196,000 in student loan debt. Not only am I still dealing with chronic diarrhea, I've had 2 more colonoscopies. I'm diagnosed with lupus. I'm chronically itching. excuse me, and I'm depressed. So I've seen multiple doctors. One day, my second job out of nurse practitioner school, I got fired from the first one, by the way, because I wasn't smart enough, apparently. I was learning too slow. So 6 months into that job, they let me go. My second job, one day my doctor looked at me, I was working for, and he said, Dani, what are you eating? Don't you know your diet controls your symptoms? What? I said, well, what are you talking about? I eat anything I want. And I was. He said, do you take digestive enzymes and probiotics every day? And do you know your food sensitivities? It turned my entire world around that day.
What year was this when he said that?
This was 2014. No. That's a lie. 2010, because it's been 11 years. 2010. We found out my food sensitivities. That day turned the entire trajectory of my life around. And I healed. That's how I healed my body from the inside out by addressing the inflammatory process. And since that, the 11 years, fast forward 11 years, I've helped thousands of men and women regain their health by simply decreasing inflammation in their body. And now I have my own practice as of 7 years ago, yesterday, actually. Yes, I was the beginning of opening my practice. So it's an honor and a privilege to get to work with people that are ill, very sick, and have been told there's nothing we can do. You know, this is not a Prozac deficiency. Now, there are people who need antidepressants. I am not against medications. I do prescribe medications, but most of the time, this is a gut problem. Gut and brain are 100% connected. When you heal the gut and you decrease those tight junctions and you start to rebuild the serotonin in your body, 80 to 90% of all serotonin is right there in the small intestine. It's not in the brain. Serotonin is what Prozac helps recirculate, or your antidepressants, right? When you heal the gut, you heal the brain. You heal the anxiety, the depression, the bipolar, the schizophrenia, the ADD, ADHD, OCD. I mean, the list goes on and on. The gut and brain are 100% connected. These children who struggle with ADD and ADHD, and these kids are bouncing off the walls, the very first thing we do is take them off of the top 7 inflammatory foods in the country, probably in the world, and artificial colors, and see what happens to them. It's fascinating to watch them start to calm down. My anxiety patients, when we cut out gluten, dairy, sugar, soy, corn, eggs, and peanuts, people are like, what the heck, Dani? Their anxiety starts to level out, right? They come down on their antidepressants and their anti-anxiety medicines. Their joint pain, my joint pain 100% went away. 100% went away when I learned that eggs were the number 1 inflammatory trigger for me. My body hates eggs. Eggs are the perfect protein for people, right? But do you know that eggs are the number 2 food allergy in the United States for children? Number 2. People don't know that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
They're very inflammatory. So that was my story. And I grew up with a lot of trauma in my house. I have an adverse childhood experience score of 6 ACEs. And if your listeners don't know about adverse childhood experiences, they need to learn about that. There's free tests online. The higher your adverse childhood experience score is, the less healthy you are. That's the bottom line. And with a score of 6, I should be dead 20 years earlier than someone with a score of 1. I should be an IV drug user right now. I should have died by suicide already. And I did struggle with that, but I'm not. And so when I learned about adverse childhood experiences, it turned my practice around again. I learned about, whoa, I am missing so much here, because this patient who is depressed or anxiety ridden or 200 pounds overweight or dealing with chronic autoimmune disease, what happened to them before the age of 18? And when I started investigating in that and giving every single person an adverse childhood experience questionnaire, my level of practicing medicine went to a whole nother level, because now I know I can't help you heal your gut until we work on that trauma that you experienced in the home, because the body keeps the score, right? Of what happened to you.
So the body keeps the score. So it's like this this trauma that you had as a child. How does that affect your gut? I mean, if your gut's not ready to fend off, if it's not doing its thing like it should be, if it doesn't have the serotonin levels, and it doesn't have the my wife always talks about these in probiotics. There's always like 5 or 6 or 7, I think, like root probiotics that you need, root bacteria that you need to create a healthy gut biome. And
Yes.
if like say a C-section child doesn't even, they come out and they don't even get this one. Yeah, I think when they come through the birth canal, they get like kind of a film of,
they get inoculated with all of mom's microbiome, good or bad.
good or bad.
They get inoculated with that when they are pushed through the birth canal. But when they are a C-section baby, the research shows that they actually have the surgeon's microbiome on their body and the nurse's microbiome on their body, not their mother's.
Yeah, I remember listening to a TED talk of a researcher that knew this, and then his wife, sometimes you have to have a C-section, right? Sometimes you choose it, but in this case, because he knew the science, it was just it was the medical necessity in the moment, and he was ready, like, because they knew it was coming, and so he had them biome from his wife and
Right.
inoculated her with but like,
yes.
who does that? Who thinks of even? I remember watching that and going, what? And my
Yes.
wife, this is what we're at. Like, this is how important the gut is. And you're giving this child, they come out of the world, they don't even have a chance really to and a year later, once they start they go into the kindergarten, and then they're just, instantly sick. Obviously, I mean, that even if they have a good immune system, right? Like, they have to kind of go through this gauntlet. I mean, even myself, I remember that was the most sick I've ever been in my life, is when our first child went to the kindergarten, And
Yes.
at that time, back in that day, I have to say, like, if I go back, and he's 9 years old now, 9 years ago, I was not taking care of myself. I was, like you said, I just ate anything I wanted. I'm skinny, so I must be healthy.
Yeah, me too. I was 44 years old before I got out of nursing school, got a job, whatever, ever really paid attention, and I look at my kids now, because I didn't know. When you don't know, you don't know. I mean, you just don't know. You cannot be held accountable. But when you know better and you learn, you have to do better. And that's my challenge with every single person in my tribe and my patients is, better. And so shame on us if we consistently feed ourselves and our family packaged, processed, inflammatory foods, and I do believe the Europeans, I've been to Italy one time when I turned 50. I went to Italy 5 years ago, and I ate whatever I wanted over there. I have not eaten gluten and dairy in years on a consistent basis. I ate whatever I wanted in Italy. I was determined, look, something could happen. I may not ever get back to Italy. I'm going to do what I want. Do you know that for 14 days, I ate all the pizza I went down to Naples and had supposedly the first pizza place. I ate the entire cheese pizza. No, the whole thing. And in Italy, the pizzas come out like literally the size of, the chair. I ate the whole thing. And then I even ate some of my friend I was traveling with, their cannoli. I'm not cannoli, their calzone. Anyway, 14 days, I drank all the cappuccinos, gelato, everything, not one pain. My stomach never hurt. My joints didn't hurt. I had no itching, because I have a lot of chronic itching from food sensitivities if I cheat. And within 48 hours of coming back to the United States, I was standing in line at a coffee shop with a friend of mine. My hands were hurting. I felt terrible after being home and eating 2 days worth of here. And I didn't come home and continue to eat like I did in Italy. So other countries, though, are becoming more inflammatory. I mean, they are. I think America's rubbing off on the bad way on food wise in other countries. And I'm sure you may see that
the biggest shock to me was when I tried to go keto. First off, that's not my diet. Like, I just know that's not me.
Not for me either.
That was just not. It just is. It's like, wait, I like to eat, and now you're going to take that away from me too, basically. Like, but what I noticed was when I went shopping, because I had to make sure, because there's no sugar, right? So then it was really hard to buy stuff. It was really hard to put food. Here I am starving. I feel like I'm starving myself, which you basically are at first, right? At least from sugar. And then I'm like looking on each package, like, wait, why does that have sugar? Why does mayonnaise have sugar in it?
Yeah.
I just wanted to make like a tuna fish sandwich, like a real, maybe without the bread, even just give me the tuna fish with the man. And I couldn't even eat that. And just thinking to myself, like, why is there so much sugar in every single product on that, and it's
because sugar is addictive. Sugar acts like cocaine in your body, right? I mean, it's kind of like gluten acts on the morphine receptors. And so sugar is addictive. The more you eat, the more you want. And the food industry knows this, just like gluten. Gluten means glue in Latin, right? Glue. So it sticks everything together. It makes food. Excess gluten makes foods fatter, fluffier, and softer, just like it's done the United States population, and actually is doing it to the world. So, when people say, well, Jesus is the bread of life, blah, 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 blah. Yes, he is. But when Jesus walked this earth, he had 3 strands of wheat, 2,000 years ago. 2021 in America, we have 25,000 strands of hybridized wheat that have excess gluten in it. Wheat has been bred to have excess gluten in it, which makes it fatter, fluffier, and softer. So your bread, your crackers, your biscuits, your bread, all that softer, and it's addictive. It's why you can eat 3 biscuits at Cracker Barrel or a bunch of breadsticks at Olive Garden before you ever even know what happened. And then it raises that blood sugar, drops it back down, and you've got to have more. And it is highly addictive. It acts on the morphine receptors. Gluten does.
I never knew that.
Yes. And so Dr. Alicia Fasano is the leader in the world on gluten research. He's an Italian pediatric gastroenterologist, but he works in Boston at Mass General. And he's brilliant. Every book he's ever written, Gluten Freedom, Gluten this, Gluten that, he's the leader in it. And one bite of gluten can set the inflammatory response back in your body for 6 months one bite, not one pizza, one bite. Dr. Mark Hyman, who's an American doctor, phenomenal. He showed research when I was in New York at a conference several years ago of one bite of gluten inflaming this woman's knee. It was the muscles and tendons and everything around the knees, inflaming her knees for 6 months. 6 months. So it punches holes in that gut from the mouth to the anus. And I tell people, is it really worth it? Is it really worth it? There's a lot of gluten-free food out there, 1 ingredient food, but we are addicted to carbs. We love carbs. Totally. Bagels. We eat dessert for breakfast. What the hell? I was raised eating waffles, pancakes, muffins, bagels, a Captain Crunch cereal for breakfast. And Captain Crunch is gluten-free, by the way, but it is not healthy. So you've got to pay attention to what's on that label. But why don't we eat dinner for breakfast? Eat your soup for breakfast. Eat, your piece of steak or salmon for breakfast. That's what I tell patients. Plus, you're going to be more satisfied.
Plus you're going to be more satisfied. That's the thing. It's like there's kind of like this, like a drug addict. There's this moment of when you're trying to get off sugar. How do you call it? You have withdrawals, right?
Yes.
Like you just have to get past that phase. And then I remember, like, after a while, the only thing that for me was, because I'm a very active person. I I wonder then, that would be my question to you. Because I was on this keto diet, I felt like, and you have to switch over to ketones and you start doing like you're running on fat instead of on insulin, right? Like
Yes.
like I'm not really sure of the process, but I'm pretty sure that fat becomes your main source of energy.
Yes, it does.
And so it's a little bit slower, right? So like if I need energy now, the system's like, well, I get it to you, but it's fat, so it's going to take us a little bit longer to kind of give you the energy. And so I would go to jujitsu, like a anabolic sport, right above, and I would just I felt like slow motion, and I was like, this is killing me here. I need a little bit of octane in my tank. So how do you go about that? Like what would be the way that I could maybe still cut out the sugars? I mean, I guess I'll let you talk. Yeah.
Well, so I'm not a keto expert by any means. I'm not a paleo expert. I am a fan of a Mediterranean lifestyle. I mean, that's what I recommend people eat. I don't get into carnivore. I've had on my podcast, Sunday night service I've had a big carnivore doctor on there. And I am a fan of one ingredient Mediterranean style food. The Mediterraneans are. So the Mediterranean diet is what literally the bulk of the world eats. It is also what the American Heart Association, the American Diabetic Association, all of your big, American health, or not health, well, the medical associations recommend a Mediterranean lifestyle. It's always number one. Well, what is that?
Yeah.
Fresh fish, right? Fresh chicken, pork, lamb, turkey. It's everything that's fresh for the most part. One ingredient. Amazing olive oils, amazing oils, avocado oils, olive oils, walnut oils, nuts, seeds, fruits, vegetables, for crying out, wine. I mean, wine, good red wine, good clean wine that's not loaded with, glyphosate, Roundup, and pesticides and all. A Mediterranean lifestyle, and on a Mediterranean diet, there's dairy. They have dairy and they have eggs. They eat that. But now in America, it's real difficult to eat dairy and eggs that's not inflammatory. So I tell people, you eat what you want as long as it's not on your food sensitivity list, because we do look at food sensitivities. And if you can't have food sensitivity testing done, then cut out the top 7 foods. Eat what you want, cut out the top 7 foods for 21 days minimum, and eat a clean one ingredient diet. Eat more fruits and vegetables and clean protein than you think you can stand. The bulk of your plate needs to be green, red, orange, yellow, purple, black, all the colors.
Athletic greens and I'm good.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, there you go. So that's another one. So we do, yes, you can, but no, you're not good. It's a great addition. There is nothing better than chomping down, chewing on amazing fruits and vegetables. People who bloat, gas, gurgle, have horrible gas, burp, fart, all the things, those people don't chew enough. They inhale their food. Our digestive enzymes start right in the mouth, in the salivary glands, the parotid glands, right? And then they move to the pancreas and the stomach. So you don't have to chew your power greens, right, that you're drinking. Although some research shows you should chew your soup and your protein shake and all that. I'm a fan of eating real food, but no, my son drinks a protein power green shake. I threw my Mighty Maca power greens in this morning and drank it down in water. But as a rule, you want to eat one ingredient food, and you want to eat food with your family.
Right.
The research shows, we don't get around the table anymore. Now, I may be dead wrong on this because I didn't know we were going to talk about this. I think it's something like 40% of people eat out. 40% of the meals are eaten out every week. I may be butchering this royally, but there's a huge percentage of children who eat their meals in the car. Shame on you. Shame on us for taking those kids through McDonald's on the way to school to get them something that's going to start them off at school. That poor teacher, no wonder Bobby can't focus At school, he's getting sugar and all the things in that Egg McMuffin. If you don't think that Egg McMuffin, and I'm not, saying bad things about McDonald's, but same thing, Chick-fil-A. If you drive them through Chick-fil-A and think that's health food, you are sadly mistaken, because that is not healthy chicken. I can tell you that right there. But these kids eat their meals in the car. We can't do that. We can't do that. We have to slow down. That's one good thing. Well, there's been several good things about this pandemic, honestly, but slowing down, spending time at home, getting your kids in the kitchen to cook, that's a good thing. The kids want to learn how to cook, and we tend to push them away and say, just let me get this done. But they want to have some input in that. And we're doing a real disservice to our children if we don't teach them how to chop it, cook it, bag it, meal prep it, learn that there's way more than corn, green beans, and potatoes out there. God made hundreds of fruits and vegetables, and we feed our kids about the same 5 meals their entire life.
Yeah. And I was listening to, I think, Michael Pollan talk about his own garden that he had and how he grew up with his grandfather. He had a really bad relationship with his grandfather because he was just so heavy-handed. He was more like a Russian descendant, and he didn't like that Michael Pollan was a hippie, and they had this whole thing. But he said one thing that we always had together common growing up as a grandson, with him, was they had a little vegetable garden.
Oh.
And he would go out there and he would pick the carrots and he would be involved in the whole process, and then they'd bring it in and they'd cook the food together. And this is he's up in the yeah. See is that it? Yeah.
This is Food Rules. This is Michael Pollan's. I didn't mean to interrupt you. This is his little book, New York Times bestseller, Food Rules, an Eater's Manual. This is hands down everything I teach every day. A patient or somebody gave this to me. Eat foods made from ingredients that you can picture in their raw state or growing in nature. It's little blippets. Don't eat breakfast cereals that change the color of the milk. It's little common sense, practical medicine, which is what I practice every day. Little blurbs. Look at this. Avoid food products that contain more than 5 ingredients. Yes, and I would even challenge that and say 3 ingredients at the most. Don't eat anything your great grandmother would not recognize as food. This is a fabulous little book right here. And sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Keep talking about it.
That's great. No, it was a podcast. I think Tim Ferriss had interviewed him because he just brought out another book talking about this whole thing that went down in the 90s where he almost went to prison for an article that he was trying to write about opium. So because he's a psychedelic guy, he's a psychonaut and he does a lot of stuff. And back in the 90s, people were literally losing their livelihood if you just had a couple petals of a poppy plant. You could buy the poppy plants or the seed pods directly from the florist or whatever, bring them home and then dry them and then create your own opium tea or whatever, and he was telling that whole story. But throughout that story, he brought it back, I think, back to that book and through his childhood memories. And I just pictured that I was on a long drive on vacation. And so I had the podcast in my ear. And it was so cool because I could be in this. That's like the best time to listen to these. He's such a great author and he's so eloquent, and the way that he delivers his ideas it was like I was just in his mind. I love that about a good author. You're just in this person's mind, and I could picture him out there in the garden. And then I thought about, oh gosh, why don't I do that myself? That's the whole idea, right? Like, what's holding me back from creating, and he's like, and get vegetables that kids like to pull out of the ground, get stuff, like do stuff that's fun. It doesn't have to be, he's like, it doesn't have to be things that are hard or tricky. Just get stuff that the kids want to like get dirty, roll up their pants and go into the garden and pick it out. And then, it's for them, it's playing. They're just playing. They get to be part of the whole thing. And then, like you said, you sit down together and enjoy this meal as a family. And that's something that I really, I noticed about you too, how much this community plays a role in everything you do.
Community is huge.
Yeah, for because the people that need healing, right? And then they're able to be part of a Facebook group or whatever it is, or part of a conversation like this on maybe like a conference call. And so they're able to network and kind of share stories, and it creates another level of healing.
You bet it does. It's my sixth step to healing is cultivate community. And that's on us to have community. And we have to cultivate it. Last Saturday night, I had my girls' night. I've done this twice a year. Last year got a little tricky. We did do it once, but there were 13 of us, and I set the tables up outside. I live in a tiny little house, like a 1,200 square foot, nothing fancy, outside. And we laughed. Everybody but two people showed up. Two were out of town, so they couldn't be here. Everyone showed up. We had salads, we had wine. I made it real simple. I didn't go crazy this time. And it was all about community, just cultivating community. And I stood back. I have a beautiful picture on Instagram of, on Instagram. It's coming out next week, actually. Of the long picture, the dining room or the outside tables put together, and everyone was in their conversation and talking. And the last people left at 2:00 in the morning. What? I go to bed at 9:00. I set the party from 6 to 9. That's what I said, 6 to 9. Well, nobody left at 9:00. And that's community. And they laughed and they cried. We all did. And everyone wants to know, when are we doing it again? And I seem to be the one in my neighborhood and the one in my friend group who's the cultivator. And somebody has to be. And it's no big deal. And I used to get stressed about that. I have to do something real big. No, you don't. Just send out the invite and they will come. And people heal when they have community. And I talk about God a lot, and Jesus had great community. He had 12 people. He had 12 disciples around him. They were just like us. In fact, there were 12 or 13 of us there 13 or 14. I don't know, last week.
On a very long table.
I was talking about it. I said, look at us. We're like Jesus and his disciples over here. And they were kooky and crazy and flawed and messed up, and some committed murder, some adultery, all that. His community was just like us. And so again, I think, and I have my community at the farmer's market. When I show up at the farmer's market every Saturday morning here in Nashville, there's community that show up, and they're like, I can't get through the farmer's market because I have spent 12 years here cultivating community. And I challenge every single one of your listeners to do that. We are the most lonely society in the history of the world. We are lonely people. And you would think we've got all that, we've got our phones, we've got our social media and all that. Well, that's bullshit, because those are never real stories that are out there. Everybody posts the good stuff up there, but community, loneliness will kill you. Loneliness will kill you. Happier people live longer. Grateful people live longer. We know this. So community is a big deal for me. It's a real big deal. Decreasing stress, cultivating community. Those are huge pieces to me helping you feel better. And I tell people every day, you have to automate, eliminate, and delegate everything out of your life that is not serving you. You don't say yes to everything. Never. You only say yes to things that are going to help benefit you and your family. Yeah. Who cares if you're the third grade room mother? Nobody cares. The kid is still going to go to third grade and still going to go to fourth grade, whether or not you are stressed out over being the room mother. I mean, we overcommit. Yeah, and then we're angry. And I work with mainly women. I do see men. But I've got they are angry. We're bitter. And I remember these days. I'm irritated because I've got so much on my plate and I feel terrible. And I'm not eating well. I'm not sleeping well. I'm not moving well, pooping well. I'm not decreasing stress, and I'm not cultivating community because I'm so overcommitted. Automate, delegate, eliminate everything. And that includes people in your life. You don't have to have the soul suckers in your life. You don't have to. If someone is sucking the life out of you, your job, your marriage, your friends, you have the right to say no more. Done.
Yeah.
We don't do that.
No, we don't do that. And it's like, why, how did that get to that point where I was talking to the Justin Caffrey yesterday, or was it yesterday or the day before yesterday? And he was telling this story about, he was also at this brink of suicide, and he's talked to so many of his patients about the fact that, like, what happened to taking care of yourself? Like, since when did that go on the wayside? And he even said it was like, he was like, yeah, I won't kill myself for whatever reason, but it wasn't because I wanted to live. It was more because of someone else, And he's like, that's so weird that, like, you get to that point where you're not willing to take care of yourself anymore. And that's something that just goes so fast on the wayside. And it seems, it's weird too. I was telling him the same thing. I was like, because I put out like an hour and a half a day. If I'm good, if I'm like on my game, I'll get up at like 4:30 in the morning and have like an hour and a half for myself before my son gets up to go to school, like at 6 o'clock or whatever. And if I'm doing that, then I'm in a good place. But I remember when I first started too, and I had to like cut this time out, especially, because I have to go to bed at like 8 o'clock at night. Right. So my wife's like, cool. Well, I guess we just won't see each other during the week anymore, because that's her time that was our time to kind of sit on the couch or fold laundry together. How romantic is that? But like, or she folds laundry and I sit there and watch TV. If I'm really being honest, she watches this every now and then, so I can't really fib about that one. But the thing is, like, I felt bad about that, right? About taking that time for myself. And there's a certain level. It's nothing against my wife or about anybody in my life that maybe hears this about me, but they want to give you guilt about that. Kind of, oh, well, Remington, aren't you just the luckiest guy in the world? You get to spend 2 hours every day for yourself and go in the sauna and do all these things. And there's a certain level of pressure, external pressure. And if you don't know how good this is for you, or if you're just trying to get it started, that might be enough to say, well, then I just won't let it. Like there's enough, you know what I mean? There's enough conflict of interest. And there's so many people don't think like that. And if you're the only one, and then you just maybe it's enough pressure to be like, well, then I shouldn't do it because it's not really, it doesn't fit. It won't, now I'd like, there's nothing that can take it away from me now because I got to that point. Thank God. But had I not somehow had enough, mental power to push through and push against my wife and be like, well, this is something that's really important for me. And she kind of is like, oh, cool. Who doesn't want to have 2 hours for themselves every day? Like, lucky, good for you,
Yeah, but let me tell you something. You are the exception, not the rule. You're getting up at 4:30. The bulk of the world is not going to make that commitment to get up at 4:30. They would rather sleep until 6 or 6:30 or whatever, and then rush like crazy through the day. Your morning routine sets you up for the entire day. I tend to get out in the morning. I get up at 4:50, so you beat me. I get up at 4:50. But the majority of the time I get outside barefoot and I put my feet to the earth and my face to the sun. I'm a huge believer in earthing and grounding and getting your feet on the earth in the morning and seeing that sun come up as your eyes start to adjust, the cones and rods to the sunlight, and the colors of the sunlight begin to set you up for a good evening. And I try to do it in the evening as well. I don't always get to do that. But I am a big believer in earthing, grounding. Cats and dogs don't have a lot of anxiety because guess what? They don't wear shoes. Their feet are on the earth nonstop, feeling all those negative ions from the earth. Well, so we could go down that. But
I never heard that before. I'm going to try that.
Oh, we could talk all about that one. That forest bathing and earthing is a big thing for me. Animals are not anxious as a rule unless they have anxious owners because they don't wear shoes. Their feet are on the earth. But you are setting up a life, Remington, that you don't have to escape from. Kudos to you. So all this self-care that everybody talks about, oh, I need to go get a manicure and a pedicure. Why don't we create a world and a life for us that we don't need to escape and have self-care from, that we actually care for self during our 24-hour day. I don't know where, like you said, I don't know where we went sideways. I don't know where it happened. I think that there's lots of reasons. A lot of it is this computer I'm in front of, this phone, the TV, all of those things have distracted us. And they take up hours upon hours upon hours of our time when we could be taking care of ourselves. But you create a life that you don't have to escape from. And when you take that time for yourself, Remington, good news for you. You are a better husband. You are a better father. You are a better podcast host, a better friend, son, the entire thing. You are a better human when you're caring for yourself. And I'm proud of you. And don't you ever let anybody give you any bullshit over that one. I have zero tolerance for whoever's giving you hell over that is somebody who is not taking care of themselves, and they are jealous and they wish that they too had their time carved out, because they are overcommitted, overconnected. They are not automating, eliminating, and delegating everything in their life.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Well, the thing that I think I happened upon it. I got lucky. Again, the pandemic, I think, is what sent me there. I've said this multiple times, so sorry for people that have listened to this like 100 times on the podcast, but it's just so I got into this Wim Hof breathing.
Yeah. Yes.
That was so awesome. Right. And then it was like that kind of just, I think that's the kind of thing, that kind of breathing is the kind of thing that just puts you, it starts to snowball instantly. And that's what I needed. I needed like that kind of, that, because then you were like, wait a minute, this is how I can feel. Like that moment after, I was like, oh, this is like a whole nother feeling. Like that, my whole body was just on fire, like in a positive way. Like I couldn't do it at night anymore. I was doing it before I went to bed. I couldn't do it anymore because I had so much energy. I couldn't sleep. I was like, oh, I should probably do this in the morning, because doing it at night kind of just somehow activates something in me. I don't really know the chemical process. I know that he let himself get injected with Ebola.
Yeah. I can't remember the whole story, but yes.
He went in, yeah, like it was something, I watched something, there was like Gwyneth Paltrow's show, Goop, or whatever she calls it, on Netflix. They kind of told the story. He was on there and he went into the local hospital around where he lives. I think he's in Denmark. And you're just like, wait a minute. He free willingly let himself get ejected with Ebola, did his breathing, turned his pH balance in his body, to alkaline, and killed off Ebola, like with breathing, where you hear that kind of stuff and you're like, well, he did it. It's not fake. He went there. There's a whole study they did on him. So it's not like some shaman that's saying, just be well. He did it. He proved it. He put his,
yes.
I'm kind of going on a tangent there too, but.
Well, breath work, I taught yoga for years, and breath work in yoga, in Sanskrit, pranayama means life force. Well, that's breath work, breathing. We have no life without that breath, right? And so the practice of pranayama, breathing, meditating, so important. And we don't breathe. We only use about 15% of our lung capacity as humans. What? Ridiculous. We are so bound up here and so tight. None of us breathe. It's a huge piece of healing and all. And I'm proud of you. Good for you. Good for you. And sauna, you mentioned sauna. Sauna is one of my huge, I recommend sauna to everyone that can do it. And, sauna's been around for thousands of years too, I suppose, hundreds for sure. And your body heals in a sauna. There's not much that a sauna will not heal or help. When you're sweating out of the largest organ of the body here, right? The skin. We're talking fat loss, autoimmune disease, Lyme disease, heavy metal toxicity. Well, the list goes on, and you just feel so much better. Nobody wants to get in there, but boy, once you're in there and you come out, it's just, the healing powers of a sauna are phenomenal. So
I was talking to someone the other day and he said, because it is like that, you have this thing like, well, I have a sauna at home. Like, well, lucky for me that my wife's a pharmacist. We have a little bit of money that I can afford something like that. But the guy, he went on the Amazon and got one of these tents, that you kind of just, he was like, I was even playing Xbox, just like sitting there, in this thing and just sweating that way.
yes.
I mean, it's, and he would afterwards, he would jump in the shower, take a cold shower to do the whole thing. And it's actually not as restrictive as you think it is. And the benefits there too. Gosh, it's
cold shower.
Yeah. Well, and it's just so, it's like, I know it's good for me because now, like if something makes me go to bed at 8:00 at night, it must be good because I never wanted to do that. If I would have told my 25-year-old self that, like last night, my wife had a friend over. So there's like 2 attractive women there. I could have sat there and just like my old self would have been like, cool, I'm going to be the guy that's like drinking with them and having a good time. What do? I go to bed at 8:30 night because I'm thinking like, cool, I can get up at 4:30. Like, what is wrong with me? Well, how far, but that's how good it is. It's better than the sexual urge that I'm telling myself that somehow I'm going to, that's not going to happen anyway. But like, but that I know that urge is there. I mean, and I know that's what my brain would normally do. So that's better than that, I don't know. I mean,
yes, it is good for you. And one person at a time, like you sharing that out there, if you just help one person who starts to begin to take care of themselves a little bit and treat their body like the temple that it is designed to be treated. And the beauty of this is your body wants to right ship. It wants to balance up. It wants to be 100%. It takes so little to start to turn it around. But it takes consistency. It does no good for you to get up one time at 4:30 and do that and then do it again in 3 weeks and maybe 4 weeks. No, this takes consistency. And when you give your body what it wants consistently, your entire world turns around and you start to live that life that actually you were born with, because very few of us were born sick. I mean, some were, oh gosh, babies are born every day that are sick. But I mean, I know that. But the bulk of the patients that I see were not born sick. They turned on their chronic lifestyle disease. And what you turn on, you can turn off. I mean, you can. It's as simple and as complicated as that. And it starts with your diet, for sure. It starts there. You can take all the power greens you want. And all the vitamin C you want, but if you don't change what's at the end of the fork, we're never going to get to where we need to be. It's common sense, and that's how I've based my entire practice off of common sense, practical medicine. It's common sense.
If we can go into that a little bit, like, because we've been doing like pretty free flow here, but I had actually made some notes that I wanted to like a little bit of structure I wanted to say to you, like, because we have like, you talked about the top 7, and that's what I wanted to list off. The top 7 inflammatory foods. Did you peanuts? You said gluten, one?
Well, yes. So gluten, dairy, soy, corn, sugar, eggs, and peanuts. Those are the top 7 inflammatory foods in the country. Those are the foods that I cut patients off of immediately, the very first.
That's like step 1. Boom.
Yes, step 1. Step 1 is an elimination diet. That's what I do. Peanuts, yes. Peanuts are a legume, right? So they have got a lot of mold in them, aflatoxin. So the safest peanut out there, I don't have a peanut sensitivity, so I can eat an organic Valencia peanut. They have less mold in them than any other peanuts. Trader Joe's has that. Costco has a Valencia peanut. You get it on Thrive Market, whatever. Peanut butter. I don't eat peanuts, and corn, corn is a big genetically modified food. It's very difficult to find. It's not impossible, but heirloom organic corn. So it's very inflammatory, and corn's in everything, corn syrup, corn sugar. I mean, the whole thing, corn tortillas, corn chips. It's in everything. But gluten, dairy, sugar, the 3 white devils, hands down.
Yeah, the
Three
three white
white
devils.
devils. I'll be right there. Gluten, dairy, sugar in everything processed. And when I say dairy, I mean yogurt, sour cream, ice cream, cottage cheese, butter, cheese, which is nothing but cow snot. Dairy is just thick, gunky cow mucus, cow snot. And you think that you've got lung issues or asthma issues or sinuses or skin issues, cut dairy out. You'll breathe better. Your skin will look better. Your acne will go down for sure. During this pandemic, we don't want any dairy in our diet. I mean, because think of this. This is a lung virus, right? To where your lungs fill up. You don't want anything in there that's going to gunk up the bronchial tubes. And I mean, dairy is, it's terrible. And it's harder than gluten for people to cut out, in my opinion, because people love cheese for the most part. Yeah. Every time I walk by the cheese counter at Whole Foods or Sprouts or Publix, I'm like, cow snot, cow snot, cow snot. And I just want to go up and say, you do know that's just cow mucus, right, lady? You're going to be gunked up, constipated, and all the things tomorrow. You're not going to feel good, but I don't say it. I'm good.
I did my blood work, and I there was something that I was low on, and I'm trying to think of what it was. And then it turned out to be like I should eat more cheese. Well, because it's in cheese, whatever but I forgot what it was that I'm sure you can supplement something else, or you can find another way to get the missing micronutrient that I had there. I want to say phosphate, but I don't know what it was. I had to look at my blood work again, but yeah, I have a feeling that I'm going to come back to you maybe like in 6 months and we'll have like another conversation. It's so much fun with you. I love when I'm doing a podcast and I look at the time and I'm like, whoa, it's been an hour already. So that's
oh my gosh, it has been an hour. I didn't even know. So what we'll do is I will send you the book that's coming out in November. I will send you.
I'm good. I don't know how much time you have. I could still go another half hour or so.
Oh, I've got plenty of time. I don't have another.
Yeah, that wasn't me trying to say goodbye. I was just trying to say, like, I'm complimenting you, like how much fun it is to just to chat with you about, especially like you have such a deep interest in it. We have that in common, you know, this interest for taking care of ourselves. And I see it in my wife. I see how she's in the pharmacy. This is like my contribution in that sense to trying to share your message. And now I'm coming back to something that I wanted to ask you about these. I think you had 6 steps, right?
Yes.
So I remember it said focus on the gut first. So is that step 1?
Step 1, eat well. Eat well.
Your 6 steps. Like I come into your office, you know, I got my issues or whatever. You know, you maybe can already tell by the way I come in. You're like, oh wow, he's limping. He's got bad skin. So let's, you know, but yeah, how would you go about?
First thing I do is ask why you're here, but then we're going to get in the 6 steps. So I want to know all about the diet. What are you eating? When are you eating? Are you drinking enough water? Are you drinking a lot of alcohol? Because alcohol, you will not do the second step well at all, which is sleep well if you're drinking a lot of alcohol. So we go through the entire thing on the diet. Were you raised eating clean food? You know, are you eating 1 ingredient food, et cetera, et cetera? Diet. Eat well. Sleep well, number 2. Your body heals when you sleep, period. If you are not sleeping at night, you are creating systemic inflammation. You're exhausted, you're gaining weight, you're fat around the middle, you're foggy headed. You know, you cannot go without sleeping. And I cannot tell you how many millions upon millions of people do not sleep at night. Now, you do not have to sleep all the way through the night. Daggone it. I was going to pull this out for you. Oh, I do have it. I have been guilty in the past of telling my patients they needed to sleep 8 hours because that's what I was taught. Right. Well, you do know that we're wrong on that, right? You don't have to sleep through the night. And I did not know this until I was researching this right here. Do you know that in times past, entire households once retired a couple of hours after dusk, woke a few hours later for 1 or 2 hours, and then they had their second sleep until dawn. This is in the book. I put this in the book because I didn't know. References to first and second sleep started to disappear during the 17th century. They were almost entirely gone by the 19th century. We started getting more automated and things started. What's most fascinating about this is the increased appearance of insomnia in the medical literature started in the late 19th century. And it just so happens to coincide when our split sleep disappeared. What people would do is they would go to sleep in the day. They would wake up a few hours later. They would stoke the fire or whatever, cook the beans, stir the beans, have sex. That's a big piece of my steps to healing, right? They would sew a little bit, read the Bible, etc., and then go back to sleep. And then they would wake up at dawn. What? So my patients and me too, we feel like we're failures when we wake up in the middle of the night, because some people do, right? Oh, my liver's congested. I mean, I hear that all the time. I got to detox my liver. You know, my liver's congested. I'm waking up between 2 and 4, and that's what the internet says. Yeah, maybe your liver is congested, but maybe you just, if you need to get up, drink some hot tea, whatever, and go back to sleep. The key is, how do you feel when you wake up in the morning? Do you feel rested? Do you feel refreshed? Do you feel like you've had a night's sleep? Now, if you don't, we'll work on all of that. But I apologize to every single person that I have told in the past, you know, oh my Lord, we got to get you sleeping all night. No wonder you don't feel good. That's BS.
That's interesting.
So, you can't have your phone in your bed. You can't have your computer in the bed. The bed is for sleep and sex only, lady, gentlemen. Get out of it. If you're not doing one or the other, get out. Your room needs to be clean. It doesn't need to be cluttered. You need to sleep in a room that's cold or cool, or no electric bed. If you're sleeping on top of electricity, like a sleep number bed, well, you're not going to sleep well. Most likely you've got electrical currents, electromagnetic fields boring all through you. People don't realize what's buzzing around in your room is keeping your brain awake at night. So clean the bedroom up, right? Sleep and sex only. Don't stress yourself out. Have a great nighttime routine. You can't just finish Harry Carey, boom, and go to bed. Yeah. Our bodies don't do that. And especially the older we get. I'm 55 now. I've gone through menopause, all that. It's a little different. I have a routine, right? And then I go to sleep, and I sleep great at night. Eat well, sleep well, move well. You got to move. Our bodies are designed to move. Look at what we used to do. We were so physical in the past. Even our grandparents were way more physical than us. We don't move our bodies. I have a good friend who's a chiropractor, Dr. Myers. He says, when you stop moving, you stop moving. It's as simple as that. Yeah. You lock up, you don't poop for sure, which is the next step if you don't move your body. So you got to exercise. I don't care what you do. I don't care if you hula hoop. I don't care if you do drumming. I don't care if you're a runner, a roller skate. I don't care. Something that's going to give you joy. I don't like to exercise naturally, so I have to do something that gives me joy. And I love to go hiking. I love to kayak. I love to hike. But now, because of my age, I have actually started weight training, because we lose so much muscle, you know, especially when you're a skinny white woman who's flabby. I have long sleeves on today because I'm flabby. My kids make fun of me there. And I'm weight training. You know, who gets osteoporosis? Skinny white women. We don't have any fat on our bodies, and we have no estrogen. So you got to move well. You got to eat well, sleep well, move well. You got to take the time to move. You got to poop well. What? Do you know how many people don't poop? They don't poop. They come in the office and they say, well, my doctor says it's fine. I poop once a week. What? You're supposed to poop like your dog does. Your dog will eat and they go and poop about 20 minutes later, and they're thrilled about it. Like they run back through the house so excited after they've pooped. Yes, that's what they do. And so we should eat and poop. We should poop twice a day. I would love it if you poop 3 times a day. Now, I'll take a good solid poop, number 4 on the Bristol stool chart. I'll take that also for you, as long as you poopy daily. but you got to poop. And you're not going to poop if you don't move. You're not going to poop if you don't eat well. You're not going to poop if you don't sleep well. I mean, it's all connected. Yeah. So pooping's a big deal. We really need to poop. And then you got to eat well, sleep well, move well, poop well, decrease stress, which we've already talked about. Yep. Cut out the soul suckers, really set your life up so that you're not stressed, because we create so much stress in our own lives and we worry about things that never happen. Never happen.
That's true. That's
right. And then you need to cultivate community. Those are my 6 steps, and whatever that takes. I mean, it's a text, that's fine. But how about pick up the phone or go show up, or go get a friend and go somewhere. I mean, really cultivate community. And if you don't have community, if you are one of these people who really are kind of loners, then join a meetup group online. I mean, good Lord, there's meetup groups, MEET up groups all over the world. And I've done that and gone hiking with meetup groups. There's gardening groups. So those are my 6 steps. They're pretty simple. Well, they're really not. When you think about it, it's not easy, but it's worth it. But they're common sense. And then, sex. If you're married, or if you're not married, if you got it. Well, here's what I'm getting at on the marriage thing and sex thing. I ask every single patient, how's your sex drive? Well, non-existent is what I hear from most women. Well, that's bad too, right? And then I ask them, and that's not a part of my 6 steps, but it is huge. Libido is, because sex is healing. Sex decreases inflammation. I've never had one patient tell me, I wish I'd never had that orgasm, Dani, ever. Yeah, right. I mean, never. Not the first time. I mean, I had one patient who had headaches after orgasm, so they probably were a little stressed with orgasms. But as a rule, most people don't complain about an orgasm. But also many women have never had an orgasm. So cultivating a sex life with your partner is huge. And some people had a low sex drive to begin with. Some people had a low sex drive after children, which is really what I hear. And, they're just busy. Their life is busy. Well, shame on all of us. You have to cultivate that with your partner, and it is your God, your spouse, and your children in that order. And where do we put our children these days?
Way up high, yeah.
Above everybody.
I'm guilty of that too.
No way. Yeah. You were a couple before you were a family, most likely. And you got to bring it back there. And I tell my patients, you got to date your husband again. I need you sexting your husband. I need you to tell him, take your pants off. I'm so horny. I can't stand it. I'm coming upstairs. And they look at me like, what in the hell, Dani? And I'm like, they would know that's not me texting them. Well, show them, give him a little wildcat. He's not going to turn you down. So that's a big piece of my practice is sex. And, and I tell the women, whenever you want to have sex, if you have the slightest inkling that you are tingling and ready to go, do it. He's not going to say no. Most likely he's not going to, if it's the middle of the night or whatever, roll over there and grab a hold of him. So, I think get a little afternoon delight, in there, which is that old song from the 70s. And it's a big piece of overall health. And I think we miss that one a lot. And a lot of healthcare providers never ask their patients, are you having sex? Are you having good sex? Are you satisfied? I mean, it's a big piece of it.
One thing that you said that I really liked too was this, you said something about normal, right? You're like, why? Like, I think you guys were talking about, where did I write that down? You're having, when I go and I have this TSH, free T3, free T4, thyroid antibodies, reverse T3, iodine levels, people go to the doctor and they say, well, yeah, I'm normal. I'm normal. And you're like, yeah, what's normal? Why aren't we optimal? Like, what happened to you? And that's something that people don't expect from their doctors. Their doctors don't do it with them. And everything they say, they just take it as gospel. And then I'm normal. So my normal testosterone for 37 years old is probably like, it should probably be around 200-300. I'm normal. That's my normal thing. I mean, yeah, but what about 900?
Yeah.
That's totally healthy.
So
Well, why can't, what do I know? But the doctor's like, we're not doing a blood test. You're good. Every 37-year-old has a low testosterone, lower than you were than 25 at 25. I'm like, I don't need to be Arnold Schwarzenegger. I don't need to have, horse testosterone injected into my veins. I don't need that. But I wouldn't mind having the old, 30-year-old Remington on this. And I would just say in this testosterone level, I'd like to kind of touch on that because I'm dealing with that. I'm trying to figure out, how do I go about that,
well, there's a big difference in normal and optimal, and that's what we work on. For sure, functional medicine providers do. Normal D3 level is 30 to 100. Optimal vitamin D3 is 60, 70, 80, even 90. So we try to get that thyroid optimal. We try to get all your nutrients optimal. Testosterone is a big one right there. And I agree with you. And your doctor's right. Yeah, everybody's testosterone's low. Yeah, they are. So then we need to go back upstream and say, why? Why is a 37-year-old man testosterone lower than his grandfather's was or his dad's was? And so again, we get into all the environmental issues going on, right? So yes, we try to get you optimal, and then we try to do it naturally. We do it with pharmaceuticals. You can have some testosterone, but you also take some DHEA that can help raise your testosterone levels and other things that help raise testosterone. But no, optimal labs are key. I have so many patients every week come in with their labs from their other providers, and it'll say everything's normal. Thyroid looks good, and their TSH is like 4.3, like right on the verge of hypothyroid. What? Nobody feels good when their TSH is up there. And D3, 31, your level's 31, good. No. So we work on getting optimal, and you do that by healing the gut, taking some supplements, whatever it is that we're trying to get better, or raise your thyroid medicine. But
I was looking up. Sorry, I was just looking up what TSH is.
Thyroid stimulating hormone. So the thyroid, that's the big gold standard lab we check for thyroid. It's not it shouldn't be the gold standard, but it is what we check. But most doctors only check TSH. They don't look at the free T4, the free thyroxine. These are hormones that your thyroid makes. The free T3. T3 is actually the active hormone in your blood, the free version of it roaming around that actually gives you energy. T3 is the gas pedal of your body. It's the one that speeds up your metabolism or slows down your metabolism. It is the main thyroid hormone. And we check a free T3 on everyone. And I also check a thyroid antibody test on everyone. That's Hashimoto's thyroiditis. Hashimoto's thyroiditis is the #1 undiagnosed autoimmune disease in the United States. Undiagnosed. Ridiculous and unacceptable, because what does Hashimoto's thyroiditis do? Right? It attacks the thyroid like autoimmune disease does. Lupus for me attacked my joints. Thyroiditis, Hashimoto's attacks the thyroid. Your thyroid's not going to work well. Many people go decades without ever having their diagnosis of Hashimoto's thyroiditis because the doctors don't check the thyroid antibodies. We rule it in or rule it out on the very first visit.
That's crazy. That's what the support group is, right? It's called the Hashimoto support group on Facebook. And it says Hashimoto's disease is a condition in which your immune system attacks your thyroid, a small gland at the base of your neck below your Adam's apple. The thyroid gland is part of your endocrine system. I didn't realize that, but obviously it's that. I always have to be reminded of these medicine things that everybody knows, which produces hormones that coordinates many of your body's functions. So yeah, the endocrine system, I know that's what you could break if you overdose on testosterone. You could create a problem in your endocrine system when you supplement too much testosterone or you don't really know what you're doing there.
You bet. So you want a provider who knows what they're doing. You don't want to get supra physiologically dosed with testosterone or thyroid medicine or estrogen or progesterone and DHEA. You want to be balanced beautifully. But the thyroid, what you're just reading right there, it is the master gland. the master gland. You cannot live without your thyroid. It controls 100% of your metabolic function. So I tell patients all day, every day, protect this thyroid in the front of your throat right here with your life. You don't put perfume over it. You don't spray perfume over it. You don't have x-rays without thyroid guards. You don't put lotion over your thyroid. What you put on your body, you put in your body within 26 seconds flat. And when this thyroid is gone, you are on medication for the rest of your life. You cannot live without it. So we have to medicate you with thyroid medicine. So we protect it. But we spent years, decades spraying perfume all over our throat, right there, because you just never know. And it smells good. Well, perfume's a whole nother story. That's another lot of chemicals that are disrupting our endocrine system. But this is the big bad endocrine gland right here. This is the one that controls it all. And it's maddening to me how we treat patients with thyroid. We could talk an hour and a half on thyroid disease. And that's like I said, the bulk of my practice, because if you're gaining weight, a sluggish thyroid, weight gain, fatigue, dry hair, dry skin, hair falling out, high cholesterol, multiple miscarriages, not pooping. I mean, the list, eyebrows falling out, the outer third of your eyebrows falling out. The list goes on and on and on for hypothyroidism or Hashimoto's. And we just don't treat it well. Endocrinologists are really more concerned with diabetes, and they make more money off of diabetes. Nobody wants to manage a thyroid. They are finicky. I mean, they are finicky. They're just ornery. And how I got into that, I will never, well, I do know the story, but we won't get into it. But it's what I do. So that's why people come, as thyroid. It initially started with thyroid, but now, of course, you can't heal the thyroid without healing the gut.
That's what you mean. It's so finicky. So you really, in order to get to the thyroid, you have to do these steps. You have to work from the bottom up. And
yes. Because most of us weren't born with hypothyroidism. And so, but then people come in, and you probably know this, and your wife knows this for sure. Well, my mom had Hashimoto's, my mom had Graves' disease, or, my mom had heart disease. You don't have to have the disease that your mom or dad or sister has. That's the entire study of epigenetics. I think that's lazy medicine when we tell people, well, you have a family history of heart disease, but Remington does not have to have a heart attack because his dad did at 42. I mean, I don't know anything about your family, but that's the study of epigenetics. If you weren't born with heart disease, then you don't have to turn it on. And if you turned it on, we can turn it off. So you bet. Epigenetics means on top of your genes. And that's a great, it's not so new anymore, area of study on turning your genes on. I wasn't born with lupus. I turned those genes on because I grew up in a shithole of chaos. I ate terrible, right? I was sick. I had mono twice, all the things. I turned that on. I had a genetic propensity apparently for autoimmune, but I never had to turn it on. I did. And now I have to deal with keeping it turned off. So your body is not broken. I just want people to know that you're not broken. And if you're struggling, if you've got autoimmune disease or all these things going on, you can reverse this. And if you can't afford a primary care provider, somebody who does functional medicine, there's tons of free education out there. I educate people all day, every day for free online. And as you do, and all these providers that do what we do have amazing social media, pages and blogs and all of that. So you don't have to suffer. You can do this and reverse whatever it is you've turned on.
That's so cool. Another guy that does that is Andrew Huberman. He does everything for free. And there might be a couple of things on his podcast, but one was because I just brought it up because we were talking about sleep. I was just watching it for lunch today. Dr. Matthew Walker, The Science and Practice of Sleep, I think is what he called it. And he's just going through, when you talk to these sleep researchers, they're just like, and it's funny, none of them drink coffee. Like no sleep researcher, none of them drink any coffee. I'm like, I wonder what that's about, because they know what caffeine does. They know that the half-life of caffeine is like 12 hours. And
But let me say something. I feel like if I don't say this, I'm remiss on sleep apnea. And this could actually save somebody's life. You don't have to snore. Now, if you snore, you have an 80% chance of having sleep apnea. So you need a sleep study. And I just did a whole podcast, Sunday night service on this. It's on our YouTube with an amazing pulmonologist, sleep doctor here in town. Cool. But you don't have to snore to have sleep apnea. I just did a sleep study because I wanted to help my patients, and I did this podcast. I didn't pass it. What do you mean I don't pass it? I don't snore at all. I have something called REM sleep, when deep sleep, but not the deepest sleep apnea, REM sleep apnea. When I go into REM sleep, I dropped down my oxygen 29 times during REM sleep. So I actually need a CPAP, which what the hell, I'll never find a boyfriend with a CPAP, but I am going to go. I've got my CPAP ordered and all that, because untreated sleep apnea takes on average 10 to 16 years off of your lifespan.
Wow.
People who think they may sleep and wake up exhausted in the morning, we always need to. And again, this is something I was not taught in school. I was never taught to ask my patients, do you snore? Right. Well, do you snore is not the only thing, right? So who has sleep apnea? A lot of older people, but young people as well. Women who go through menopause, because your hormones keep your vessels and your veins and all of those things pliable, right? And not floppy and all that. So as we go through menopause, things get slack and lax and drop down like your skin. It's fascinating. So that's huge on sleep, sleep apnea, untreated sleep apnea. Untreated sleep apnea.
There was something that he was talking about when this paradox of REM sleep is that you basically, there's a signal sent down to the neurons in your spinal cord that basically paralyze you so that you don't kill yourself, because so you can actually dream actively, right? So because you dream of you running and you're doing all these things in your sleep, you're flying off a cliff, and if you live in a 3-story apartment and you jump off and jump out the window, it's not so good for the genes. So there's like but it's so interesting the way that he was talking about this REM sleep and how important this phase of your sleep is. And so then to hear that you say that you have REM sleep apnea. So in that moment, or is that what you called it? I'm sorry.
Yes, that's what I called it. I never heard of it.
I never heard of it either. So it's like this phase for you. But he said it was really interesting that when they're monitoring the brain, like if he's behind a black door and he's monitoring the brain, if the brain looks like the brain looks like it's awake during this phase, during the REM phase. So it's just so interesting to think that like the brain looks exactly like it looks like right now. When you're awake and you're doing your thing, as when you're in REM sleep. So I wonder what that means when you don't have that. What part of that? Like maybe it's something that's like, I wonder how negative that actually is for you. Did the doctor kind of have what did he say? Like,
he said you're borderline, Dani. You're real borderline. So I said, well, give me the CPAP, because I encourage my patients to do this. And if I'm gonna do this, I better walk the walk. And I learned that a decade ago, right? So you better walk the walk. You can't be caught out. I can't be caught out at Papa John's eating a Papa John's pizza if I'm asking people, don't eat gluten and dairy. Okay. So I'm going to do it. And I will report back to you and see. Oh my gosh, I can't imagine. Of course, I sleep. I don't have anybody in my bed with me, so it'll be totally fine. But, and you don't reverse it. The only way to fix it is to wear your sleep apnea. Your CPAP. So, but I encourage anyone who snores, if you're sleeping in another room because your wife or your husband snore, or your partner snore, you need to get them a sleep study. Hands down, I'm not going to wear CPAP. Well, okay, fine. But you need to see what's going on. You can't when you can't breathe, I mean, it takes nearly, a decade and a half off your life.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. That's not good.
No, it's not good, on top of all the other things that are shortening our lifespan, our adverse childhood experiences, our leaky gut. But again, you can't do it all. You just have to do the best you can. It's overwhelming when somebody tells you got to eat well, sleep well, move well, poop well, decrease stress, have community. Oh Lord, now I have to have sex with my partner, all the things. You can't do it all
bag.
and do it amazing, but you got to start doing something, right? Just start somewhere. And I guarantee you in 6 months, you'll look back and you'll be like, whoa, I'm not where I need to be. I've spent 5 decades screwing all this up. I'm not where I need to be. 6 months isn't going to fix it 100%, but I'm way better than I was. And once you start feeling better, your joints don't hurt, your head doesn't hurt, you're sleeping better, you're pooping better, you're not bloated like 8 months pregnant, you don't want to turn back. That's the beauty of the body. The body just wants to do it, and you don't want to cheat. So just be consistent for a while, and then boom, you're on to living the life. And I'm not ever going back to where I was.
Yeah, and just your energy level just kind of speaks for itself in that sense, because you're living this life, and that's always the thing. It's like how good you feel. So It's like on your website too, at DaniWilliamson.com, I just wanted to kind of say that how to swap as if your life depended on it. So because it does. So this is a free ebook that you can get on your website. I downloaded it, and this is where I'm going to start just to kind of look through and see what you're swapping here. So before you shop is how you kind of started out. Then empty your refrigerator and start new, basically. Empty your pantry and cabinets. It says here. That's cool. I'm gonna try this out, just kind of see if I can make it through. Because food is such an emotional thing too, right? Like I remember back in the day when I'd make a pizza and I'd sit in front of the couch and sit there and watch Netflix with pizza, and the next thing was probably going to be Ben and Jerry's. My wife would like food shame me, and I would get so like emotionally triggered by that. I'd be like, I eat whatever I want, leave me alone. This is my thing now. Like this is my treat that I'm giving myself. Like how deeply rooted I am in that. It's scary because I really was triggered. I was really pissed that she even brought it up because she ruined my meal for me now. Like now I can't enjoy this pizza. So thanks a lot.
We are so emotionally connected to food. It's not even funny. And then again, you mentioned something that's a terrible thing for us, eating in front of Netflix or the TV. The studies show you eat, I can't remember. It's something like 1/3 more calories. Maybe it's 2/3 more calories. I don't remember it, but I've forgotten it. But you eat way more food when you are mindlessly eating in front of the TV or the computer or the phone. Again, even if it's just me at home, 90% of the time, I'm not perfect. Sometimes I sit in front of the TV. I try to sit at the table, and I share that a lot on Instagram, my picture of me setting up my plate and all of that at the table and eat, and enjoy it. And even if you do live alone, make it nice because you deserve that. You deserve to be 100%. You deserve to be treated well and to eat well and to not always eat off of a paper plate and plastic and blah, blah, Eat, set your table. They do that well in other countries. We don't in America.
Yeah, that's something that I definitely noticed when I went back home, and it's like paper plates and plastic forks at a hotel. And my father-in-law went with me. We went on a motorcycle trip or something, and I remember him being like, he's like, whoa, I guess they're kind of, I wonder if the hotel's doing all right. I'm like, no, this is normal. This is like a thing. This is like,
yes,
with the pancakes and the syrup and the plastic forks and the paper plates. It's dessert for breakfast. It's crazy.
Dessert for breakfast. Yep. And that sets us up for failure all day long. So.
Yeah. Well, Dani, this is cool. I really had, like I said before, it was really fun just to go on these tangents with you.
Well, I hope I didn't derail you. I just got started because we got started. So I apologize if okay.
No. This is how I love these just free flowing normal conversations like this. And And because you're just so into it, I love to just hear you flow, and anybody listening, I think that's kind of a way, it's nice to listen to, because you can just kind of follow with you on your journey. And yeah, yeah, again, so thank you very much for taking the time to sit down with me online. I love that we can still connect even though we're so far away, and that there's still a connection there. I never really thought that would work. I always thought I'd have to have somebody like physically in the studio, but it's not true. You can still make that connection. Funny enough.
I know, isn't that great? Well, you don't understand. I'm coming to Germany, so I am coming to the pharmacy, and I am
Yeah.
seeing. It's a reason for me to get out. What time is it in Germany right now?
Just turned to 3 p.m., 3:20 p.m.
Okay, it's 8:20 here. So, yeah, I'm gonna, as soon as we have the all clear for sure. And I would love to get there. It's on my bucket list to get to Germany. So
Oh,
it's been fantastic, and you're doing a great job out there. I've listened to a lot of your podcasts, and you really are putting out great things. And keep it up. I mean, because people need to hear what you're putting out there, and one podcast at a time.
right. Exactly. Thank you very much. Those are very sweet words. I appreciate that. That's nice to hear.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Danny, we'll stay in contact. You definitely can come out. The doors are open for us, for you here. I say that to my family too, and I say that to anybody that feels like they want to come out. And Pasewalk, where we live, is a little bit out in the middle of nowhere, but Berlin is close and the Baltic Sea is close. So there's some cool things up here where we're at. So
Wow. Yeah, you don't understand. I like to eat well, travel well, love well. I got 2 out of the 3 down pat. Well, I had it down pat until, COVID happened over here, but I was eating well and traveling well like crazy. So, yes, I will be out there. So I appreciate you so much and what you're doing. And I thank you for letting me be on your podcast. I appreciate it.
of course, it was a good time. Well, then we'll keep in touch. Take it easy, Danny. Have a nice rest of your day.
You too. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.